1. The Star at the Edge. From the HFY story, where the galactic map ends, humanity begins, and none dare ask why. In the farthest quadrant of the Perseid expanse, beyond the reach of hyperspace lanes and known jump beacons, a single star burned defiantly in the black. It was not charted. It was not named. Not officially. Among the fringe traders and rogue AI cartographers, it was whispered about only as the star at the edge. Its light, ancient and strange, shimmered across the hull of the Esprit Nomad, a battered exploration vessel from the Terran-free colonies. The ship had no insignia, no IFF code. It did not need one. Where it was going, names meant little and alliances meant less. Commander Reza Anwar stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the spiraling nebula that surrounded the star like a tattered shroud. The glow of dying systems shimmered faintly in the distance, but here, at the final coordinates of the known galactic map, there was only silence and the anomaly. "This is it," said Navtech Juno, her voice a whisper as if the void could overhear. "No recorded jump points. No diplomatic claims. The sectors literally labeled Terran Alias in the old Central Concordance Registry." Reza's eyes narrowed. "And yet something built that," he said, pointing to the hologram floating above the central console. The image showed a construct, massive, symmetrical, ancient. Suspended in geostationary orbit around the star, it resembled an immense orbital ring, like the skeleton of a Dyson sphere abandoned mid-birth. But more than its shape, it was the material signature that drew attention. Zero reflective alloy, no electromagnetic emissions, and a faint gravitational signature that pulsed like a heartbeat. "We've scanned everything known," Juno said. "Nothing like this exists anywhere. Not even the Zentari archives mention it, and they've catalogued black holes by name." A silence fell. Even the ship's AI refrained from comment. Reza tapped the console. "Open all passive channels. Scan for languages. Old Earth, concordance codes, even xenoglossic remnants. I want every whisper caught." There was a pause, and then static filled the comms. For 10 seconds, nothing. Then a voice. Human. Female. Faint, like an echo across millennia. "You should not be here." Juno froze. Playback. Enhance. They ran it 3 more times. It didn't change. No distortion. No accent. Just a clear, calm voice. "You should not be here." Reza turned to the crew. "Get me origin coordinates." "It's coming from inside the ring structure," the AI replied. "But there's no power. No detectable life." They all knew what that meant. Someone, or something, had been waiting. And it knew who they were. Beyond the orbital ring, deep within the construct's labyrinthine inner framework, dormant systems began to stir. Sensors primed by ancient protocols detected a Terran biosignature. For the first time in over 10,000 years, an internal process spun to life. A word formed across a dark console in a language older than Earth's oldest scriptures. Humanity. And then another. Unlock. The diplomat who would not speak. The great chamber of accord echoed with silence, the kind that burned louder than war drums. Beneath the obsidian dome, where thousands of alien species had spoken, debated, and bartered peace, now stood one man, unmoving, unreadable. Ambassador Kale Virek of Earth. The tribunal demanded his voice. The Galactic Senate insisted on his protest. The Empire of Lorat, smug in their armor of bureaucracy, had expected shouts, tears, rage. But Kale said nothing. He hadn't said a word since the massacre. The Senate logs confirmed it. 3,000 Terran children burned alive in the atmosphere of Seltharn Prime, their cries jammed by orbital silence fields. A strategic error, the Empire claimed. Collateral miscommunication. And still, Kale did not speak. He stood in the center of the chamber, draped not in diplomatic robes but in Earth's morning black. Eyes like steel under ice. A small, silver emblem glinted at his collar, the last gift from his daughter. She was one of the Seltharn 3,000. The senators murmured. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. The silence was beginning to frighten them. Ambassador Vyrek, the speaker rasped, a seven-eyed Korlothi whose tentacles jittered with impatience. Earth must lodge a formal response. Refusal to engage will be interpreted as complicity in your own suffering. Kale met the speaker's gaze, and blinked once. That was all. The murmurs grew louder. Somewhere in the upper rings, a representative from the Rin Empire clicked her mandibles nervously. The silence was unnatural. It was provocative. For Earth had always spoken. Humanity had always argued, fought, protested, defended. They had been loud, defiant newcomers to the stars. But now, after the atrocity, after the Senate's cold refusal to punish the Lorat, Earth's voice had gone still. That stillness echoed farther than any war cry could. Behind Kale, 2 Terran guards stood like statues. One was Commander Reyes, whose hands trembled just slightly. He had lost a brother on Seltharn. The other was Vyrek's aide, a young woman named Hannah Lynn, her eyes locked on the alien delegates with venom barely concealed. Vyrek had instructed them both the same way. Say nothing. Let silence spread. In the war rooms of Earth, silence had become strategy. In their halls of mourning, silence had become a vow. Across Terran colonies, people wore black, didn't speak, and stared up at the stars like judges waiting for a verdict. The stars were beginning to blink first. Ambassador, the speaker growled, by choosing silence, you relinquish protection under the Galactic Accord. Kale's expression didn't change. His silence was not submission, it was the drawing of a blade. In the shadows of Earth's moon, fleets were being built. In the depths of Mars, quantum forges sang. And on a dozen dead worlds once claimed by the Lorat, the Terran flag had already begun to rise, not through negotiation, but through the ashes of black ops and silent retribution. The diplomat would not speak, because vengeance had no need for words. The silent accord. The accord was signed with no words, no handshakes, and no celebration. They called it the Silent Accord, a name coined not by Earth, but by the frightened whispers of alien diplomats in shadowed corners of the Galactic Citadel. No Terran delegation attended the signing. There was no envoy, no formal recognition, no ritual exchange of peace tokens. Just a simple data core dropped into the hands of the Speaker of the Senate, encrypted in Earth's dead tongue, Latin. It translated to one line: Pax Nostra Silentium Est. Our peace is silence. But silence no longer felt like peace. It felt like a countdown. Across the galaxy, systems once dismissive of Earth's grief were now checking their shields twice a day. Interstellar markets dipped every time a Terran vessel entered neutral space. Mining colonies on the fringes of Lorat territory reported disappearances, entire outposts gone, scrubbed clean as if they'd never existed. No trace, no broadcasts. Just the void. Kale Vyrek still hadn't spoken. Back in the Terran diplomatic corps, a hollowed satellite once used as a cultural outreach hub, now converted into Earth's quietest war room, Commander Hannah Lynn stared at the walls of silent messages. Each screen showed an alien world where silence had followed Earth's footsteps. Not war. Not occupation. Just disappearance. The Accord had changed everything. By refusing to speak, Earth had changed the rules. They no longer asked for justice. They enacted it. Quietly. Mercilessly. One by one, the Lorat's outlying allies began severing ties, terrified they'd be next. Those who mocked the humans were found frozen in space, mouths wide open, but silent. In a black chamber beneath the citadel, Speaker Jewel of the Korlothi summoned a secret conclave. Representatives from 14 star systems attended, some allies of Earth, others historic enemies. What unified them now was fear. Not of invasion, but of silence. Humanity is breaking the Accord without breaking its terms, hissed the Rin Empress, her mandibles twitching. They make no declarations. They sign no treaties. Yet they act with impunity. They are ghosts, muttered a Zalari elder, folding his luminous limbs. And we do not know how to fight ghosts. The room fell quiet as a figure stepped into the chamber, hooded in midnight blue. It was an old protocol, the arrival of an observer from the Terran Black delegation. No one spoke. The figure placed a single obsidian stone on the center table. It pulsed once. Then it played a recording. Not of speech, but of screams. Children's screams, echoing from Seltharn Prime. The recording ended, and still the figure said nothing. Then they turned, walked out, and disappeared into the dark. In that moment, the conclave understood, Earth had not abandoned diplomacy. They had redefined it. The silent accord wasn't peace. It was Earth's warning. The map ended there. Not with a final planet or a stellar landmark, but with an abrupt, uneasy void. The galactic cartographers had simply marked it with a thin, black line and one cautionary phrase in every known language, uncharted. Do not cross. No one ever explained why. But now, that line was behind Captain Alaric Vance and the Eidolon. The stars ahead were strange, too perfect, as though hand-drawn by an artist who had never seen the sky. "Scan again," Alaric ordered. Lieutenant Maris frowned. "Same result, sir. Every signal we send vanishes. No echoes, no bounce back. It's like space itself is absorbing the data." "Or something doesn't want us to see," murmured Dr. Reese, their exophysicist. They had crossed the border under direct orders from the Terran Assembly, orders that did not come through normal channels. Encrypted, verbal only, and followed by a pause that chilled everyone who heard it. Find the origin. And remember, we were never here. What lay beyond was not chaos, but symmetry. Disturbingly so. Planets orbited their suns with perfect timing. No asteroid belts, no anomalies, no dying stars. A galaxy sterilized of randomness. And then they found it, a structure the size of Saturn's rings, hovering in dead silence, its surface etched with impossible geometries. Not a derelict. Not an artifact. It was a gate. Alaric stared at it from the command deck. "Is that Earth script?" Dr. Reese's voice was dry. "No. But it's close. Like a language humanity could have evolved into using if we had 1,000,000 more years." "Then who the hell built it?" The question hung unanswered as the Eidolon drifted closer. The gate didn't react to probes, lights, or radio signals. But it opened, wordlessly, elegantly, when Alaric whispered a word not in any Earth language. A word he shouldn't have known. He'd heard it in a dream the night before. Calthicer. As the gate opened, the crew felt it. Not pressure, not gravity, but something older. A pull not of the body, but the soul. Inside, there was no space. No time. Only memory. They didn't travel. They remembered being there. The crew stood on a world of crystal skies and ancient cities. And they weren't alone. Figures approached them, human in form, but not in eyes. Not in age. They wore robes of living data and spoke without sound. "You have come early," one of them said, "but not unexpectedly." "Who are you?" Alaric asked. "We are the remainder," the being replied, "of what humanity will become." A silence stretched between them, terrible, absolute. "You mean you're us?" Maris said. "In a way," the figure replied. The end of the map marks the beginning of isolation. It was drawn by the other species, not to keep you out, but to keep them safe. Dr. Reese took a shaky breath. "Why?" The being looked at them, sorrow in its ageless eyes. "Because where you go, you do not merely survive. You dominate. You endure the impossible. You do not evolve like others. You choose your evolution." "And that's dangerous?" Alaric asked. "To those who fear change, it is terrifying." They showed them glimpses, visions of what could be. Earth, a cradle turned empire. Not through conquest, but sheer will. Humanity spreading not in ships, but in thought. Minds encoded in light, flesh discarded for form. The final frontier wasn't space, it was reality itself. And behind it all, something watching. A presence. Old. Vast. Familiar. "It calls to you," the being said. "It always has. That is why the stars bend toward Earth. That is why the map ends here." Alaric felt it then. In his blood. In his bones. A memory not his own, but deeper than DNA. "We were meant to cross," he whispered. The being nodded. "Yes. But know this, the moment you return, the veil will lift. The galaxy will see you not as explorers, but as harbingers. You will no longer be feared for your weapons, but for what you are becoming." When the Eidolon emerged, the gate sealed behind them. The crew was changed, silent, distant, eyes reflecting starlight in ways no human eyes should. They didn't speak of what they saw. Not to the assembly. Not even to each other. But from that day, ships began vanishing beyond the edge of the map. Not destroyed, not lost. Called. And the galaxy watched. Watched the edge. Watched humanity. And none dared ask why.